Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U. Tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Gene Mackey. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to IT4U. I'm your host, Gene Mackey. So these are interactive webinars brought to you by Information and Technology Services. Before we get started, I want to bring up a little poll, which is, what brings you to this session? Are you mainly here because you're switching from C-Tools project sites, or are you more general interest in shared accounts? Just take a moment for that. No, it's looking like most people have more general interest. Cool. Thanks for that feedback. Again, if you're having any audio or video problems during the live webinar, let us know in the chat pod. If it's not on our end, we can give you some tips. If you're watching the YouTube caption version of this recording, look in the description field and you see a Google Doc that's got some live links. If you do need an accommodation to participate in a live session, just give us a little bit of a heads up and we can make that happen. What's coming up? So in January, I guess Google Sites, you can create websites, you don't have to know coding, and it's got a new look and feel. And I'm getting the registration set up later today, so I'll send that out when I send you the recording. But yeah, that could be useful. And today we've got how to collaborate with Box and Google shared accounts with Mary Beth Stunkel from ITS. And without further ado, let me turn that over to Mary Beth.
Well, hello. I'm really happy to be here, and I really want to meet your needs in this presentation. So I want to encourage you to pipe in to the chat pod with questions as they come up. Jean will be monitoring that and relay them to me, and I will answer them right on the spot. I have a presentation, but I'm not going to be delivering the presentation except for a few slides I want to show you. For the most part, I'm going to do some demos, but the presentation will be there almost as an outline of what I'm demoing, and you can follow that later. One of the things is I wasn't sure whether the audience would be more interested in general information about shared accounts versus C-Tools project sites. So the presentation that you'll have access to has a little bit of both. So I probably won't get to everything there, but you'll have it as reference. So since the greater interest was in shared accounts in general, I'll make sure I get through that material first, and then as time allows, I'll talk about some of the C-Tools project site specific stuff. But it's there in the presentation for those of you that have that interest. So well, actually, from one thing of interest right now is I'm actually delivering this presentation from within Box. I'm not running PowerPoint. I'm not loading PowerPoint. I made the presentation in PowerPoint through Box, and now I'm presenting right from Box, which is one of the things I love because I can go to any machine anywhere and present, and I don't have to worry about the right software being loaded, the right version, a PowerPoint that was developed on a PC but delivered through a Mac. I don't have issues with that. So the one thing that I wanted to talk to you about shared accounts is we offer shared accounts at University of Michigan Collab Team for both Google, or G Suite, as they now call what used to be called Google Apps, and Box. So you can get a shared account with a Google component, a Box component, or both. In most cases, to use it as a sort of an all-in-one collaboration environment, you'll want both because you'll want pieces of each of them. With Google email, you can delegate email, so you can have all the email related to a role or function going into one mailbox instead of it being scattered through different people's mailboxes. You can have a calendar related to that function. You can use Google Drive, but the ownership permission, and I'll show you this later, makes it such that Box is a better file storage option for group work because the all of the files, all of the content that's put in the Box folder is owned by the project instead of by individuals. So you have less issues with offboarding and permissioning and so on. And then the next IT4U presentation on Google Sites is really timely because that's something that can be used to kind of pull all of this together and have it all sort of presented in one pane of glass. That documentation link down there is actually a work in progress. So if you look at it now and you look at it a week from now, it'll probably look different to you, but we're consolidating all of the information on shared accounts into that one document to give you a comprehensive look at what shared accounts are like, both the Google side and the Box side. So let me just talk about this slide, and then I'm going to move away from the slides. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is, why should I use Box? I've got Google Drive. Or what's the difference between Google Drive and Box? And why should I use one versus the other? And that link down at the bottom gives a really heavily detailed comparison. It compares everything we could think of across different storage options, including Google Drive and Box, but it's really big. So what I did is I pulled out what I think are the most compelling things about these two places to store your files to help you make a decision of which one is the one you want to use. The top two things are common to both platforms. They're unlimited storage, they're both secure. They can be accessed anywhere, anytime, any device. There's mobile clients you can use. You don't have to be on campus or be using a VPN. So these are common to both of them. But below that are some key differences between them. The biggest strength of Google Drive is the collaborative editing of docs, which are Microsoft Word type things, sheets, which are like spreadsheets, and slides, like a PowerPoint. And those, you can have multiple people in these documents at the same time doing editing. You can see what each other is doing. It's a great collaborative tool. The other key, although I think it's actually less compelling, but another key advantage of Google Drive is the integration with the other G Suite apps. The key advantage of Box is file ownership. The files that are put into a folder in Box are owned by the owner of that folder. So it's a very orderly, predictable ownership of the files. If one of the members that's collaborating with you leaves the university and their account is deleted, they don't own the files that are in there. They're owned by whoever the folder owner is. And so their permissions go away because they've left the university. But everyone else who's been collaborating on that can still see it. So that to me is a key advantage. Another one that I didn't put on here is Box is really better for non-Google style documents like, Word and PowerPoint and that kind of thing. It has more features that allow you to work with them better. Another key difference, while Google is very secure, don't get me wrong, it doesn't have the legal assurances in place for us to put HIPAA data or patient data in it. So Box has both the security, the technical security, and the legal agreements in place for HIPAA data. At the, I know one of the, I don't know if I have it in the presentation, but one of the things that is available, links that will be available to you are a link to the Safe Computing Data Guide, which is where you can tell what kind of sensitive data may be stored in what type of repositories of data. And then lastly, Box has a lot of advanced features for using these different kinds of data. So because Google is so broad and has all these different applications, they tend to be less deep in any one of them, and Box is very deep in the features. So I see we have a question.
comment. Bob says Google Drive has version also.
It has versioning in a different way. It has where you can see like who made what changes when. It does have versioning. The versioning in Box is a little more sort of discrete. So it's you have version 1, version 2, version 3, etc. But that's correct. Google Drive does have a version of an aspect of versioning.
And
Another
Ruby
one
says, isn't there a way to have group ownership of Google Docs like the EARS report?
Group ownership of Google Docs.
Yeah.
A Google Doc can only have one owner. However, you can share Google Docs just like you can Box Docs, either with specific individuals or with sort of everyone in an open way. So in that way, they're similar in that even though there's just one owner, there are permission levels that allow you to share these docs in both Drive and Box. That's not a distinguishing feature. So
what's the main difference with Box group ownership?
Oh, so I wonder, is the question about M community groups and being able to share with M community groups? Oh, that was your question. Well, is that your question, Jean, about M community groups?
I guess I was just going off of what Ruby just said, is a group ownership. So what's specific about Box group ownership?
Okay, so with both Box and Drive, you can invite collaborators at different levels of permissions, whether just to view or to be able to edit. Box has more levels, but it has more levels. But it looks like people are maybe having some trouble hearing Jean, so I'll repeat what Jean says in the future. But she was asking about how's group ownership different between Box and Drive. And today, as we speak, Drive, you can use an M community group to collaborate in Drive. And with Box, you cannot do that today. However, we are on the tail end of a project to make that happen, and that will go live in January or early February next year. That's scheduled to go live. So if you're live in this presentation, Google Drive allows you to use groups. Box does not. But if you're watching it in February, then you have that capability of inviting a group to collaborate in both Box and Drive. So at this point, I'm going to switch out to my browser. You can see here that this is just in my browser. And I'm going to show you some of the things I talked about earlier with collaborating with the Google apps. So this is my mailbox. Hopefully there's nothing embarrassing in there. And what I wanted to show you is we have a Google group, a shared account called Collaborate. And if I look in here, I see that collaborate at umich.edu. This is actually a shared account, and its display name is Michigan Collaboration. So, Jean, you have a question.
So Ron says, Bob Jones says that Microsoft OneDrive is soon to be supported by Michigan. How will that shake things up for storage?
That's a good question. I don't know what the I do know that the University of Michigan has been negotiating with Microsoft on the contracts, but I don't. That's actually the first I heard that OneDrive was going to be a supported storage option. It's currently people at the University of Michigan can get OneDrive today with their accounts, but it's not covered by our contract. It's more of a personal agreement. If that I had not heard that the new contract with Microsoft would cover that, but if it does, it will certainly make the environment more interesting because it will have another very similar choice. And in fact, it's not uncommon that situation of having Drive, Box, and OneDrive is not uncommon in higher ed. I have several colleagues at other universities have the same situation. So stay tuned on that. We'll have to address that when that changes. So I wanted to show you here within my mailbox, I have, you see this is delegated. So this account, this shared account has been delegated to me so that within my mailbox, I can go to the mail that's been delivered to that shared account. So all of the correspondence with that shared account is stored in this in this shared account mailbox. I also receive these messages in my own personal mailbox, but I can delete them from there and yet still have a record of that correspondence related to this role. So this is a really powerful way to use shared accounts, especially in, for a Google account that's specific to a function, or maybe the organizer of a conference, and you want to get all of the material, all of the email correspondence that's related to that. If you, I don't know if you can notice that, but you see most of these are unread because they're not actually read from the shared account. People mostly interact with them from their own mailboxes, but still we have a record now of everything that was sent to that mailbox. Likewise, I have a calendar from the Collaborate shared account. Now this shows you my calendar plus the Collaborate calendar. Collaboration at Michigan is what it's called here because I could customize it. But if I take away my calendar, now I just see the shared account calendar. In this case, what we put in this calendar when we're doing presentations and things like that. So that's why it's pretty sparse, but that's a way that you could use shared accounts. Again, with the example of a conference, you could have all the conference scheduling in this shared account calendar and then share it out as appropriate to the conference attendees. Another question.
Lois says, can anyone delegate and delete emails?
Can anyone delegate and delete emails?
Delegated.
Oh, yeah, the delegates can delete emails from the shared account email box, right. In fact, let's see. That's kind of an unimportant one. There we go. I just deleted it and I'm a delegate. So yes. I don't know if that's good, if that's considered a good thing or a bad thing, but that is what it is. So here's the Google Drive. I'm going to switch to a different kind of a different shared account, not different kind, a different shared account here. The Box team has a shared account in both Drive and Box, and I'm going to look, well, in Google and Box. We don't tend to use it for email and calendaring, so I didn't use that for that demo, but we do use it for Drive and Box. Here, it points out the ownership thing. So even within this Box team, let me open up the info pane here, and you can see that this owner is the Mbox team of this Box team folder. But if I look at the subfolders or files within them, you can see that there's a lot of other owners. This person isn't even at the University of Michigan any longer, and he's still the owner of a folder because when he left, he didn't do anything to change the ownership. Now, because he's an alum and a retiree, he retains access to his Google account, and so that content is still there, and those of us that were collaborating with him can still get it. But should his account be deleted, that stuff's gone. And likewise, several of the people that are owners at this level are no longer at the University of Michigan, and so here's another example, even more people. These were people that were on the project team when Box was first being rolled out, and most of whom have since either moved on to other jobs or other roles in the organization, and so, but yet they still own the files. Now, it's not, there is a way to solve that problem. For example, here's one that I happen to own. I can go in there, I can change that ownership to, no, that's not what I want. I can change that ownership to someone else. So here's the Mbox team shared account. I can go in and make that the owner, and that solves the problem. But it's a sort of a one-by-one, and people have to remember to do it. Some people are great at it. I have some teammates that are, there we go, the ownership changed to the Mbox team. I have some people on our team that are great about changing that ownership and keeping things consistent. But it's, you can't depend on everyone to do that, as you can see. So before I move on to the how Box handles that, any questions about the Google aspects of the shared account? I'm going to move on, but please interrupt me as you need to. So here's the same shared account, the Unboxing shared account, or Mbox team is the official name of it, in Box. And as you can see, the Mbox team is the owner here. But if I go into any of these subfolders, the owners there, you know, any of these, the ownership never changes. Well, there's no files in that one, but and you can see that no, I was going to show you one in particular. Let me see. I'm changing the sort order. By the way, if this looks unfamiliar to you, that's because you're seeing the new user interface that Box has introduced. You should have been prompted to say, do you want to change to the new Box interface? But you don't. You could have said no. There is a manual way to change, and that's in the slides too, if you want to change back and forth. And the other thing if you're a little queasy about a new thing, what if I can't find what I need to do? You can go up here and you can say, need to switch back to the old experience, click here, and it takes you back to the old familiar one. Personally, I like the new interface better, and so far I've been able to do everything I need to within there. So, but the key here is just how the ownership, these other people are editors or have other kinds of permissions, as you can see here, but they're not owners, and should they come and go, it's not going to affect that content in there. Another question.
Just a comment from Ron. Depending on folks to change ownership to the shared account, whether Drive or Box is significant shortcoming for administrative computing and business community.
Yes, so Ron makes a comment that having to change ownership is a real problem. And this is exactly
question, and then Jeff has another question.
Okay, so the question was about, or the comment was that having to change ownership is a real barrier to collaboration in these systems, and absolutely. And that's why I feel that Box is a better collaboration environment for teamwork like that, because the ownership is one place. If you use a shared account, the owner is the shared account of all of the content within that shared folder and all of its subfolders. And then if people come and go from the university, it doesn't matter. The shared account never leaves the university, and so that content always stays with the university. And then there's another question.
Jeff says, can you highlight multiple files to change ownership at one time? And you don't have to repeat because they can see it.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, Jeff was asking about multi-selecting. You can, but it's tricky because okay, let's just try it here. Let's try this. Oh, I think you can actually. Let me see. Share. See, well, actually, I take that back now. I thought I would be able to here, but you can see can or is owner or whatever it was does not show up in this dialog with a multi-select. Whereas if I take just this one and look at it, and I choose the Mbox team. Oh, I'm not seeing it here. Oh, this is another problem. The reason it worked the last time I showed you is because I was the owner. In these cases, they are not the owner. So let me try 3 where I'm the owner. I think I should be able to change those multi-select. So let's see, advanced. Let me find the Mbox team. Yeah, and I can change all those as a multi-select, but only the owner can change ownership. So in a case like this, where there's multiple owners, all of those people need to do it for the ones that they own. So the answer is yes, with qualifications. Jean has another question.
Ron wants to know what storage system is used by Fleming, the president's office. Do we know?
I don't know. I suspect it's a mix. I know I have worked with Fleming on some Box applications, but I'm sure they use Drive as well. I think in most places it's a mix. Sometimes just because it's organic, sometimes because it's a a conscious choice to use the Google environment for that interactive collaboration, and then to use Box as a more permanent storage for things once the collaboration is done. You can take a bot like a Google Doc that you've been collaborating in and then save it out as a Microsoft document and then store it up in Box. Another thing to mention here that is relevant, although it's vaporware at the moment, is that Box and Google have entered a partnership by which, and there's two main deliverables of this partnership. One is better integration between Google Drive and Box, so that you actually be able to store Google documents in Box and access them from Box. And if that works the way I would envision it, I think that might be able to take advantage of the collaborative editing of Drive and yet the ownership model in Box, which would be really awesome. Another thing is I think it's called Springboard, which is Google's sort of cloud version of their search appliance, is going to include Box, which will be nice. You'll be able to search across your Drive and Box things with Google Springboard. But right now, that's just an announcement. I haven't seen any kinds of proof of concepts or anything. So if there's no more questions specific to Drive and Box collaborative environments that I can help with, I'm going to move on to a few of the other things. Now, with C-Tools project sites, unless people opt out, their content, their resources will be moved into Box. And so I'm going to at this point, I'm going to kind of pivot and show you some of the features of Box that people who are using C-Tools project sites that may not be familiar with Box might find interesting. So one of them is Box Notes. So this is the one collaborative editing feature that Box does have. So in this is a Box Note. You see, this is my Box icon or avatar, and it shows where I'm editing in the document. If I had other people collaborating with me, their avatars would be showing up here as well. Similar to Google. Google puts them across the top, Box puts them along the side. But this is not a Google Drive. This is a Google Doc. It's not a Microsoft Word replacement. It's more like an Evernote replacement, frankly. It's just for note taking. One of my favorite things is these check boxes. So here's my notes of what I wanted to cover in this session. As I cover them, I can check them off. Okay, I've done those things. I told you about Old New Box. Yes, I'm talking to you about Box Notes. So this is great for meeting notes, for things like to-do lists. And most things in Box you can only share at the folder level, but you can share individual Box notes with people. I can invite an individual person. I'm going to invite Ron because Ron's been very active in this session. So I'm going to invite Ron to collaborate on this note with me. And so now I see, well, that's the comments, but I can also see that manage people. I can see that in addition to all of those other people who are collaborating at folder levels, now Ron is collaborating with me on this at the this particular Box note level. So it also, another thing that makes it very easy, very nice for meeting notes and so on. The new user interface in Box, you see this new left navigation pane. One of the enhancements that's coming soon to that is a note-specific interface that will give you access to all of your Box notes, making it even more like an Evernote replacement. So I'm really interested in seeing what that's going to look like. But that's supposed to be coming either end of this year or beginning of next year. So let me go back to my thing. Couple of other tools that people find, thank you, Ron, that people find useful for in Box are Box Edit and Box Sync. As Ron is typing in there, this allows you to use the web interface and yet open the file directly from the web and then edit it in whatever application the file. If it's a Word file, then it would open Word on your desktop, make your changes. When you save it, it saves it back to Box. In the meantime, it's making temp files, but then it cleans them up, so you don't have to have them on your machine. We have an incoming question.
Well, Ron had said he thinks Fleming still uses the S drive.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, Ron. I think they probably use a little of everything.
And Stephanie says, what is the recommendation storage, S drive or M box?
So that's a tricky question at the University of Michigan because it's one of those, it depends, right? We don't have a blanket recommendation for everyone, but we try to help people understand what their needs are and what the best option is for that. We are also I'm also working partly with the My Workspace team and also with other people around campus on providing better guidance. This IT4U is just the tip of the iceberg in providing better guidance on using Box as a shared drive replacement, like as an S drive replacement. Box has unlimited storage. Our contract covers us for unlimited storage. We should not be investing more money in on-premise storage if Box will meet those needs. I think technically Box can meet those needs, but in terms of having the right support or helping people use it, I don't think we meet those needs yet. And so we're really working hard on trying to do that. And actually, I would invite anyone within the sound of my voice to email me, and my email's in the slide deck. If you would like to work with me or have suggestions or feedback, or you just want to vent about, I've tried to do this and it just doesn't work, and that will help us provide better support for campus along these lines. So I'm going to move along, but keep the questions coming. This is fantastic. So I talked about Box Edit. Let me show you a little bit about how that looks. If I look at my Box account, here's the account. I have a folder for this session. Here's the presentation that I'm doing, the PowerPoint, but I can actually open it directly from this in PowerPoint. So it's saying, well, first of all, it's generating a preview. If I say open, it says it's launching the application. You can see PowerPoint is being launched on my desktop, and there it opens in PowerPoint. I can do my editing. I can save it back. The saved version is saved to Box. This, if you don't already have Box Edit installed, when you click open, it will prompt you to install it. And so you can install it. It does not require administrator rights on your computer to install it. So it's a real low barrier to entry. Another thing that people find really helpful is the Box Sync. So if I'm going to use this link over here, Sync to Desktop. So this shows which of my folders within Box I have tagged to be synced to my desktop. And when you go to sync a folder, I'm going to right click here. Well, here, I'll be machine agnostic. I'll click on the more options here. And since this one is synced, it gives me the option to sync it. Let me go back to my previous one because I didn't have this one synced. I could, whoops. So now it says sync because this one hasn't been synced. If you click that, and it will sync the folder. If you don't have Box Sync installed already, again, it'll prompt you to install Box Sync. This one does require administrator rights to sync it, or to install it. If you're on a My Workspace machine, that you can make a request that it be installed on your machine. They can push that to you. Same thing for Box Edit. So these are tools. The thing about Box Sync, I'm going to go to my desktop actually. Boy, I got a lot of stuff open, don't I? And I have a Box Sync folder. No, I don't. I just had my my machine reimaged, or my hard drive crashed, and I just got it back, and I haven't put everything back in place yet, so I haven't put Box Sync there. So let me go back to my presentation. I will show you. I can go in here to the apps, and I can look for Box Sync. In fact, let me just search Sync. And as you can see, Box has a lot of third-party, some Box developed apps and some third-party apps that you can add. The one caution about that is only the official Box apps are covered by contract. Any of the third-party apps that you install, you're entering into an end-user agreement with whoever the vendor is, and there's no guarantees about how that vendor handles your data and so on, unlike if you use the official Box app where it's all covered by our contract and we know it's all copacetic. But if I search for sync, I will see that there's, BoxSync for Windows, BoxSync for Mac. I'm not going to install it now, but I could install it right from here. Or like I said, you could have your IT shop ask you to push it to your machine. So that's another really useful uh, um, tool to use. We talked about BoxEdit and BoxSync. So I think I'm going to go back to the slides a bit here because I do have one where I talk about some best practices. And let's get the preview back and go down. So as you see, the stuff that I've been talking about is also captured in the deck that you'll have access to. Some of the things that people ask me about is, well, is there some kind of naming convention that you would recommend? My stance on that is naming conventions are great, but they're incredibly hard to make people use. It's fantastic if you have a really a group that's willing to do that and willing to name things according to, well, first you start with the name of the project, then you start with the blah, 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 blah. So, if you can do that, that's great. But lacking that, you remember that Box has really great search capabilities. So if you choose names that are makes sense to whatever the folder, the file is, and you can search, especially if you have something unique in there. Like I can search for IT4U because I use that in the name of this PowerPoint, and it's only going to find a few things. It's not going to find hundreds of things. Another thing that's nice about Box Search is it tells you not only that it found a file or a folder with this name, but what folder it's within. So that gives you more context of which one. Maybe I have a lot of folders called presentations, but I know that this presentations folder is in my Google Drive subfolder. So I know it was a presentation about Google Drive. So that's helpful in the search as well. When you name subfolders, you need to remember that if you're going to share out subfolders separately from the parent folder, which you can do in Box, and it's a great feature, you need to remember that the person's not going to see the parent folder. So you have to include enough context in the name of the folder. I know oftentimes I hear people say, well, we created a folder for all of the people on this project and then a folder with their unique name underneath it and then shared that with that person. Well, all they're going to see is a folder with their unique name. They're not going to know that it's about that project. So you need to provide that context. So the other thing to remember is the waterfall permissions in Box. Once you assign someone a particular permissions at a folder, those permissions go down to all subfolders. You can't lessen the permissions as you go down the folder structure. So before moving on, any questions right now?
Got 2 minutes.
Okay. So I just threw in here a few examples. Let me go through these quickly. This is just some sort of use cases of how these different collaborative abilities could be used. Here's an example, and I kind of talked about this when I was demoing the collaboration shared account in Google and how we use that as the mail and calendar to keep all the stuff related to that function together. So once the account is set up, you log into the account, but after that, you don't have to be logging into that account all the time because you can get to everything from your own login because the email has been delegated to your login, the calendar has been shared with you in with sufficient permissions. And so once the setup, you don't have to be switching back and forth different logins or anything like that, which is really a nice way to use it. Similarly, so we're talking about shared drive replacements. And that can be done at many levels. Some units prefer to create a shared account for every department or function or project. Others like to have sort of one maybe departmental shared account, and then they create separate subfolders and delegate those out to the different areas within the department. I'm going to do one more quick use case, and which is sensitive data. Just I wanted to point out that for types of sensitive data that are are allowed for Box but not Drive, when you create that shared account, when you ask for that shared account, you want to only create the Box component, not the Drive component, because HIPAA data, for example, is not permitted in in Google. So, and then also when you request the shared account, you may say it's for sensitive data, and we put additional controls on it to make the content more restricted. And at that point, there are additional slides specifically about the C-Tools project sites migration. If you have any questions about those, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to you or email you or whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Excellent. Stop sharing. Go back to my little PowerPoint. How does one request a shared account?
So the links that you'll be provided with,
Right
we
here.
will, yeah, we will make sure that you that a link. I don't think I gave that to you, but I will
And
have it added to that
Eric
document.
just put something in the chat pod that looks very useful also.
Yeah, it looks very scary, but we'll provide a shorter link for you. But yeah.
Okay. Great. So here's resources. I'm going to send out the recording as soon as we can get it up on YouTube, and you'll also have this Google Doc there. And we're going to stop the recording now and go to the polls. Please stick around so you can give us a little feedback.